This is Goku-san, DBZ, and welcome back for a new collections video. This time we're looking at the Microsoft Xbox 360. So, first up we have Portal 2, of course, all-time classic in many people's eyes. Next we have Forza Motorsports 3. Then, definitely one of the reasons to have a 360 of collections is this one, the Dreamcast collection, which gives you Bass Fishing, Sonic Adventure, Crazy Taxi, and Space Channel number 5, Part 2. Also, quickly mention a couple loose games I have. One of them being Wolfenstein The New Order. Next up, the other reason, good thing about this though, you can also get this on the PS3 to be fair. But with the orange box effect, you get Half-Life 2 with episodes 1 and 2, as well as Team Fortress 2 and the original classic Portal. Next, 007 Quantum Solace. Yeah, this is pretty cool, the collector's edition. And love the steelbook. Next, considered somewhat of a nightmare of a game, that being obviously Sonic 06. Definitely a cult classic with Alan Wake. Then going to the Arc System Works side of things, we have one of the Blaze Blue games. And speaking of Blaze Blue, and if you like tactical games, I do actually recommend Command & Conquer Red Alert 3, as it has the great Tim Curry in it. Next up we have Dark Souls 2, Black Armor Edition. Next up we have Enchanted Arms. Special edition, which also includes a little mini comic book also with the game itself. Which, of course, in my opinion, is a criminally underrated game. Enslave, Odyssey to the West, of course, on the classic tale of Journey to the West. And the main, I guess you could say more or less main character, voiced by Andy Serkis. Next up, a game that I'm sure holds a special place for some people out there. Final Fantasy XI. A somewhat underappreciated game. Also, if you like more tactical games, Halo Wars has you covered. I think is a genuinely underrated Halo game, just because it's not the traditional FPS. Then we have what I call the true successor, really, in the Final Fantasy franchise, the true Final Fantasy 13, in my opinion, as this is a far superior game to the original Final Fantasy 13. And this game still surprisingly looks really good overall. It is truly one of the most underrated JRPGs. Definitely a pretty cool game, great action and everything involved. Lost Planet, Extreme Condition. A pretty fun and great overall game from Capcom. And also Lost Planet 2. And the special edition of the original version of Marvel vs. Capcom 3, The Fate of Two Worlds, which also includes a small comic book as well, besides Steelbook. And next you hear the music in the background playing from Mirror's Edge. Great action and an awesome indie game. Another pretty cool and fun game, Overlord. Somewhat underrated game in the Phantasy Star series, in my opinion, Phantasy Star Universe. An interesting game from Square Enix. Soul Calibur 5. Definitely, I think, one of the best cover arts in the series, even if it's definitely not one of the best games in the franchise. I do like the redesign, actually, of Nightmare, personally. Next up, we have... Oops. Sorry, messed up. In order. Next up, we have Star Ocean, The Last Hope. Another pretty long-running series from Square. And Street Fighter Cross Tekken, which I think should get more love than it does. Super Street Fighter 4. Super Street Fighter 4 Arcade Edition. Tales of Vesperia. Tekken 6. Which, yeah, I have mixed feelings on of Tekken series. The King of Fighters 12. But sadly is missing a lot of single player content, unfortunately. The quite a few times overlooked but great Transformers War for Cybertron. Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Virtual Fighter 5 Online. The original classic Assassin's Creed. It is interesting how a lot of people often don't even talk about the first game anymore. Assassin's Creed 4, Black Flag. In many people's opinions, the best game in the series. Often it's in debate with also 2. BioShock 2. Brutal Legends. If you're a big fan of metal, you can't look any or find any better game than this. And yes, you see right there, that is indeed Ozzy Osbourne. Castlevania, Lords of Shadow. Often, I feel underrated mini-series of games. A lot of people like to bash on just because it's similar to God of War, but personally I like it has its own feel and style. And Castlevania, Lords of Shadow 2. Condemned, Criminal Origins, a great survival horror game on the 360. And this game is quite infamously well known. As they really pushed the hardware of the time. Next up we have Golden Axe, Beast Rider. Which is an interesting game to say the least. Next. I think I got this somehow out of alphabetical order, but whatever. Next we have the original classic F.E.A.R. F.E.A.R. 2. F.E.A.R. 3, which I love the cover art of this one. F.E.A.R. Files, which is a less well-known game. Fable Anniversary, which is, of course, Fable Lost Chapters in HD. Fable 2. You want the platinum hits as it includes the DLC. Fable 3. Yes, I have 2 copies. A very criminally underrated game in the series. Dragon Age 2. A often overlooked game in the series. Doom 3. Unpopular opinion, my favorite Doom game. I prefer the bit slower pace, more psychological horror and stuff in it. It is much more of a survival horror game. which I actually appreciate about Doom 3. Dead Space 2, arguably the best in the Dead Space series, as far as I'm concerned. And one of the best modern horror games. Dead or Alive 5 Ultimate. Dead or Alive 4. Yeah, I know I'm going backwards a bit, so excuse that. Devil May Cry 4. Dark Souls 1, the original classic. In the last batch. Next we have Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary Edition. Halo 3. Next, Halo 3 ODST. Probably many people's personal favorite game in the series. Halo 4, which is one of my personal favorites. And the only really big thing I have in my collection, Halo Reach. The limited edition, which is actually really cool. Next we have Kingdoms of F.E.A.R. A Reckoning. Which is actually a pretty cool game, and I do like some of the creature designs in the game as well. Left 4 Dead. Classic zombie game from, of course, Valve. And speaking of, also, Left 4 Dead 2. Resident Evil 5. Personally, I'm not the biggest fan of this game overall. I only have it because when I got it, it was super cheap. Sadly, this game was more designed for co-op in mind. Next, actually a pretty awesome game with a lot of fun side quests, especially one you get rewarded with a full CGI style, sort of music video from Blind Guardian with Sacred Worlds, which makes sense as the name of this game. Definitely one of the coolest, and as you even see there, Blind Guardian's logo with Nuclear Blast Records. And as a fan of Blind Guardian, it's awesome. The original, The Darkness. A superb game, along with its sequel, The Darkness 2, both deserve HD, like a remaster, on current gen consoles, in my opinion. Next up, an interesting game I don't hear a lot of people talk about of Square games of the time, The Last Remnant. And interestingly, it's a mature rated Square game, which they don't do too many of those. Also, a pretty cool little collection if you're a fan of old school shooters like Quake and Doom. The Serious Sam collection is a great thing to have, as it includes Serious Sam 1, 2, and 3. Also, The Witcher 2 Assassins of Kings Enhanced Edition. To be fair, this was actually my introduction to The Witcher, not Witcher 3, like probably with a lot of people. Of course, the original, Titanfall, which is a solid overall game. And this was my beginnings with Titanfall, though Titanfall 2 would blow the first game out of the water. Third to last, Game of the Year edition on the rebooted Tomb Raider series, which is actually really good. Out of the rebooted, I gotta say, I do like this one more than Rise of the Tomb Raider, though I have not played Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Second to last, we have arguably one of the few times a game actually ends up better than the movie it's based on. X-Men Origins Wolverine Uncaged Edition is the best route to go. And boy, is this game brutal but awesome. Last, Zone of the Enders HD Collection. As I've already said by now, I am a huge fan of the Zone of the Enders series, plus this even includes a demo of, at the time, releasing Metal Gear Rising, which is one of the best over-the-top, insane action games ever. With that said, I'll see y'all next time. Same YouTube time, same YouTube channel. Stay safe out there.